Can someone tell me why I don't remember reading like half of these books this month? We'll see how this wrap up goes. Hello beautiful people and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Gianna Lian and today we're back with my August reading wrap up. We read some books. It was a very weird reading month again, you guys, but this time in a sense that I genuinely don't really remember any of these books that I read this month. I don't know what happened, I just genuinely don't remember them, and like looking back at my notes and what I rated them, I'm like, I read that this month? Like, it's just very weird how my brain has been kind of in a fog the whole entire month to the point where I'll read a book, I'll enjoy it, but then I look back and I'm like, wow, don't remember loving that, or don't remember actually reading it? I don't know, it's weird. We're gonna try to go through all the books that I read in August. We're gonna get into the stats, but I do wanna say that a lot of these books are actually in some reading vlogs that I've been posting recently, so make sure you guys check my channel if you guys want my reactions and like my thoughts kind of more in detail throughout the book, rather than just me telling you my final thoughts at the end, because I find my reactions to books very funny sometimes, so if you guys are interested in that, there's definitely some reading vlogs down there that I'll link below. But let's get into some stats here. We had a TBR of 7 books. I think it will be a miracle when we see the day that I actually complete a TBR that I set for my month. It will be a miracle that day because we only read 5 out of the 7 books that were on that TBR. It's sad, but we'll get there one day, right? And in total, we read 6 books. It's definitely not my best out of the other months that we've been reading lately. Normally I read like 8 books, so 6 was weird. I don't know why I didn't read as many books this month, but out of those 6, we read 4 physical books and 2 Kindle Unlimited books. I still like to take advantage of my Kindle Unlimited. It's just a thing that I've been loving, especially having my Kindle. I feel like I read faster, and there's actually some good books on Kindle Unlimited, so highly recommend checking that out because you can save a lot of money and read some good popular books. But yeah, those are the stats. We're gonna get into them specifically, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you do, give it a thumbs up. Starting off strong with a Kindle Unlimited book, we did read The Locked Door by Freida McFadden. This book blew my mind, you guys. I know Freida McFadden, I've read a few of her books now, and this one just blew my mind a little extra. I was just very shocked. I think maybe because I haven't read a Freida McFadden book in a while that I just kind of forgot how she formats her books and I forgot how suspenseful they are. So I did rate this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I just really enjoyed it. I think the shock factor just got me, and that's mainly why I rated this so high, because it kind of reminded me of The Housemaid by Freida McFadden, and that was a 5-star read of mine. It just was really, really good. The premise is crazy. We're following our main character. I don't remember her name now. And her dad was like a known serial killer back when she was a little girl, and he was basically killing a lot of people in their basement of their family home, and she had no idea until she obviously got older and he got caught and locked away. So fast forward a decade later, and now she kind of completely changed her identity, so she is not associated with her father because she doesn't want to be known as that crazy monstrous serial killer's daughter. So she changed her name, she became a doctor, but now the past is kind of coming back to haunt her, and there's murders happening now that have the signature like style that her father did, but he's still locked up. So now she's kind of confused of like, is he out and doing this again, or like what's going on? It just is really, really twisty, and you're kind of figuring out things as you go. I was 50% of the way through the book and I still didn't know what we were trying to get at. But that's what I like about Freida McFadden books, because it just keeps you hooked to the point where you want to keep reading and keep reading until you figure it out at the last page. So I highly recommend. If the synopsis didn't interest you, you can take my word for it. Just give it a try, or any Freida McFadden book. In my opinion, especially if you're in a slump, that will be a good route for you, because her books are super short, they're fast-paced, short chapters, good characters, good plots. She's definitely one of my favorite authors, I can't lie. But I did realize that there was a mini little cliffhanger at the end, and that kind of confused me because I don't think there's another one coming out, and it's not a part of a series. So I was like, okay, well, why did we get a little mini cliffhanger here? Now I'm on the edge of my seat. I kind of want to know. Maybe the book had an ending sort of like Verity. If you guys read that book, the author kind of lets the reader decide what they want to think of the end. Freida McFadden throws you the ending, and then you kind of take what you want out of it and then base your opinion off that. So it was just crazy, and it was an amazing start to my month. Highly recommend this one if you guys need a crazy, crazy suspenseful book. Then we picked up an anticipated read that I've had on my TBR, The Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hildebrand. If you guys watch the reading vlog of my reactions from this, you guys will know how much I literally fell in love with this book. You watched me slowly like kind of be iffy on it from the beginning and then fall completely completely in love with it. It was crazy. I rated this 5 out of 5 stars. This is my first 5-star book since May, and now we're at the end of August. So I haven't had a 5-star in a long time, and I felt like it was so well deserved because of how much I genuinely love this book. I honestly wasn't expecting to really like Ellen Hildebrand's writing because her writing seems to be very specific to a certain audience, and I just felt like it would kind of bore me, or it wouldn't be detailed enough to me, or like too confusing because of how many characters she throws into each of her books. But I loved every single second of this, genuinely. This one is told in third person, so if you don't like third person, I would be mindful of it. But as a person that doesn't read third person at all, and I read this one, I didn't find it confusing after like the 20% mark because I got to know the characters and stuff like that. But you will genuinely just fall in a loophole of her writing, and because there's so many characters in it, you're just gonna want to know what happens to every single character. You're gonna become so attached to every single character that they feel like they're real. So I just really enjoyed this book, especially reading it in August, right at the end of summer. I feel like there wasn't a better time to pick this up considering it is a summery read. You are getting those coastal vibes, you're getting the small town elements with a lot of chaos though, and gossip and small town secrets, let me just tell you. But either way, it is a summer read that I would recommend you pick up, even though we are at the end of summer, so I don't think a lot of you guys are going to be picking up summer reads now. But if you do, or if you need one for your next summer TBR, this one better be high on your list, because I don't think I could say a single bad thing about this book now that I'm really thinking about it. It is long, but with how much is going on, you need the length of the book because it wraps it up so perfectly, and you get an ending from kind of every single character, which is so needed considering how many there are. I love this book so much. This book has definitely become one of the tops of 2024 as a whole, not just top of the month, like top of 2024. And that's saying a lot, you guys, because I have a lot of favorites from this year. And I realize I never really told you anything about this book, but it is pretty popular. But if you haven't heard anything about it, we're basically following Lisbeth, and she goes through a breakup. She's from Nantucket. She used to run a whole restaurant area with her ex-husband, but then they broke up. She's going through a hard time. She realizes she needs a new beginning. She needs to focus on the future, not in the past. So she becomes the manager of the Hotel Nantucket, revamped. And you're kind of following Lisbeth building this hotel up from the ground. She's hiring so many new employees, which then becomes more characters that you're following and their messy lives and their secrets. And basically everyone's hiding something, and you slowly are figuring it out while they're trying to make this a 5-star hotel. And it was just super cute. Loved the vibes. I felt like I was actually there. I now really want to go to Nantucket, so highly recommend. I can't say anything bad about this book, like I said. Then we read Broken Prince by Aaron Watt. This is the second one of the Royal series. I was very excited to go into this because of how much I surprisingly liked Paper Princess. It's very brain rot romance, I want to call it, where it's cute, there's a lot of gossip, but you don't need a lot of brain power to follow what's actually happening. So that's what I like about this series. I don't think that's really a compliment to the author, but it is to me, because sometimes I really like to read those books where I can just mindlessly read and still have a good time. So that's what this series kind of is to me. I did rate this one a 4 out of 5. I think the other one I rated a 4.5, and I did like the first one a little bit better, but still enjoyed this one nonetheless. I liked the continuation that Aaron Watt did for this series. I feel like we jumped into this book at a really good spot from where we ended in the last one. And then I feel like this one just wasn't as chaotic. I feel like this one wasn't as gossipy. You still got those high school vibes and kind of those high school stereotypes and all these rich kid problems, because each kid that goes to high school is extremely wealthy. They're extremely entitled. They think that the world revolves around them. They think that they are invincible and unstoppable. So it's a good time. It's chaotic, but it is a really short read. So if you're looking for a series that's gonna fly by, kind of Wattpad-y is what other people have explained this series as, I would recommend it, but don't go into it thinking you're gonna get a fully laid out romance, because that is not what this is. It's very all over the place, and you're just kind of reading it for the vibes. And plus, I do have a liking towards reading rich people problems. It's become a new thing. Any rich billionaire or living that luxury lifestyle, I love those types of books recently, so if you're looking for that, highly recommend. And I'm excited to pick up the third one. Considering there are 5 books in the series, I'm pretty sure in total, they are pretty short, so each book kind of just seems to fly by. I am curious to know if we're gonna read about any of the other royals, because there's 5 royal brothers in total, and so far we've only really been focusing on one. So I don't know if maybe we're gonna get more of the other royals in the next book, or when we continue the series, but if we just follow the one royal brother the whole time, I won't be too mad, but I kind of want to know the rest. I want to know more of the story in depth from the other characters' point of views. Then we read the most disappointing book of the whole entire year, and the worst book that I read this month, Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I'm shocked, you guys. Genuinely, I don't know if you guys are shocked right now, but I'm personally shocked because this was my most anticipated read of 2024. Out of the whole year, out of all the books that could possibly come out, this was my most anticipated, and I rated it 2 out of 5 stars. A Riley Sager book. Me, Gianna, rating it that low. That's unheard of. Riley Sager is one of my favorite authors, and I was so excited to pick this up once he released it, once he announced it. I was just so freaking excited, and once I actually started reading it, which, by the way, there's a reading vlog coming out for this book, so stay tuned for that. It just was such a disappointment. Like, what happened? I have no idea. I don't even know what to say about this book because part of me feels like it just didn't live up to Riley Sager's books, but then another part of me thinks that this is so different than his other books that maybe it was still good. I just didn't like what was going on, or I didn't like the whole storyline of it. Sorry, plot is the better word. Because the writing was still good, it just wasn't interesting enough. I feel like it just was like here on Riley Sager's chaotic, twisty, psychological thriller list. Meanwhile, all his other books are all the way up here and like how crazy they feel, you know? Like, I didn't guess the twists in this one. Again, I still have not guessed a single Riley Sager book, but this one didn't blow my mind. When we figured out what happened, I was like, oh, that was very anticlimactic. That was like kind of a waste of my time. Like, it was building and building and building, and then that was the ending. I was like, what the heck? I just read a 400 psychological thriller for that to be the ending. Are you kidding? So I don't know. I don't recommend this book to you guys, especially with all of Riley Sager's other books. This is not the one that I would recommend to you guys. He has so many better ones in my opinion. So overall, I just wouldn't recommend. It is a small town mystery. You're getting small town vibes, like very small. The whole book revolves in a cul-de-sac of houses in a neighborhood. So that's all the information you need to know. It was extremely boring. Then I read the book that took up most of my month, I want to say. I was reading this for a very long time, you guys, but I'm happy that happened because I was really taking my time when I was reading it. I read A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. I finally read it, and I'm so happy that I just pushed myself to actually start reading it because it took me so long just to open the book and start it. I did read it on Kindle Unlimited. I do want to find the paperback. I know I have to order it, but even as a paperback, it's like $40. And I was like, it's a paperback. Normally hardbacks are like $36 to $40 in Canada, but a paperback being almost $40, I just can't justify that. But then again, I did rate it a 5 out of 5 stars, so I kind of really want it. So then especially I can annotate all of the stuff that I annotated on my Kindle into the actual physical book. Like, I would love to do that, but should I buy it? Let me know down below if it's justifiable to pay almost $40 for a paperback. Because if you guys say it's okay, then that gives me a reason to actually do it. You know? Anyways, I absolutely adored this book. Everything that people were saying is true. I just can't. Okay, first of all, first thing I want to say, the writing was some of the best writing I've ever read in a book. Just the literary devices that Candy Steiner used really made me feel so much closer to the book, especially because the whole thing is reference to whiskey. All of the sentences that she was kind of relating whiskey and alcohol addiction to an actual person was insane. Like, just how she came up with some of these lines, and just the whole story in general was so freaking special. And I did read this version because the first one, it's only like 360 pages and it ends terribly. So the 5th anniversary edition has the regular edition plus a whole Jamie's point of view of him telling the story and his love letter to whiskey at the end of it. So you kind of get the full story. You're not just getting all the toxic running back and forth, crying, heartbreak, breaking up, getting back together, cheating on you, loving you again. Like, you don't just get that in this version, you also get the resolution and moving past it in the 5th anniversary edition. So if you do pick up this book, I do recommend you do that version because you don't want to be screaming at the characters and hate them by the end. But I would recommend you check trigger warnings if you do pick this up. There's a lot of heavy topics talked about in this book, not only addiction being one of the biggest ones, but there's also lots to talk about grief in this book and just abuse in general. So make sure you check the trigger warnings before you even get into it, because yes, it seems like it's gonna be dark before you start reading it, but you want to make sure that you check all the topics beforehand because it did get descriptive, very descriptive in some parts. So just a heads up. But either way, I fell in love with the characters. I hold them so close to my heart. When this book ended, I felt empty. And I haven't felt that in a really long time from characters. So it just was crazy that I got to know these characters so well. And it is a 600-page book, so you really get to know them with how long you're reading them for. But overall, you just fall in love with them. You kind of grow with them through the story, and you almost feel very proud of them towards the end because of all of the stuff that they endured and everything they went through together and separately, and just as a whole, people just becoming a better version of themselves in general was just everything I needed. So I highly recommend this book. Please pick it up. It is long, but I promise you it is worth every single second, and Candy Steiner's writing will blow you away. I'm telling you. There's so many quotes that I posted on my Patreon of just her beautiful writing. I couldn't get over it, of how many quotes that I have saved and loved and marked up, and it was just perfect. And then the last book that I read that will also be featured in a new reading vlog coming to you guys soon was Finley Donovan Rolls the Dice by El Cosimano. You guys know I've been putting this off for a while, but once I put it on my August TBR, I knew maybe this was just the time to get it off my TBR. It's not a long book, so I knew I could fly through it. Other than the font being extremely freaking small, it was a pretty good book. It was a lot better than I thought. It definitely surprised me. Going into it, I was like, I'm not gonna like this. I didn't like the third one in the series. I'm not gonna like this one. There's another one coming out after it. I wasn't vibing before I actually read the book. But I ended up rating it a 4 out of 5 stars. Like I said, it surprised me. I thought I was gonna rate this most like 3 stars considering how the last book made me feel. But yeah, I think no matter what happens to Vero and Finley or what they're doing or where they are or what mess they've gotten themselves into this time, as long as I'm reading their banter, as long as I'm reading about their dark humor, just them as a whole and their friendship and how close they are and how similar they are, I will be okay. And I feel like that's what carried this book, along with the whole series, is Finley and Vero. If you guys have watched Dead to Me, I've mentioned this reference a few times, but if you've watched that show and you know the 2 main characters from that show, that's Finley and Vero in this book. That's my best example that I could give you of how these characters act. Those 2 girls from the show, I'm telling you, they're like identical. So obviously Finley and Vero were the highlight of this whole entire book. And the mess that they got into in this book specifically was a lot more chaotic than the second and third book. I feel like those ones fell a little bit flat in like what they were getting up to and like the mystery that they had to cover up and solve. And this one just felt like the first one, and I feel like it was a nice breath of fresh air considering the last 2 were just so meh and so like flatline. This one really felt more suspenseful and it felt more interesting. So if you have read most of this series or you're on the second book, third book, this one, I say to just push through the second and third because those ones weren't good and get to this one because it is worth it. And now I feel love for the series again. Now I'm a little bit more excited to pick up the last book. Hopefully it's a last book. Imagine if she comes out with a 6th one. That will be crazy. I don't know what I'll do if that happens, but I feel like it's gonna be the last one because of the title of it, but we'll see. Either way, I'm happy I ended my month off with finally getting this off my TBR and it being a surprise considering I genuinely thought I was gonna hate this book and I didn't. So that's also your sign to just pick up some books that you feel like you might not like because you never know, it could even end up being like a 5-star and you never know. But those are all the books that I ended up reading in the month of August. Like I said, it was a very weird reading month. I don't know why I was reading so slow, but I was pretty busy for majority of the month, so that makes some sense. I am going to be putting together my fall TBR soon. September, I'm planning on picking up thrillers, some romances, but I want to get through a lot of my thrillers because I have so many. So if you guys have any recommendations that you want me to put in my fall TBR video, my September TBR video, or just fall-esque books, thriller books, or kind of those fall time things, you know, like maybe even some fall romances. If you have any of those recommendations, please put them down below so then I can check them out and possibly add them to my TBR and put them in the future videos. And also while you're down there, make sure you check out my Patreon and join Patreon family. They get so many behind the scenes. I tell you guys this every single video and you just won't regret it. So make sure you guys check that out. But other than that, I really hope you guys are having an amazing, wonderful day and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Oh, I didn't put on my lip gloss. How could I forget lip gloss? This is almost out. Her writing seems to be, is it Nina? No. I feel like we have things that go on this book. There's a lot of dark